Hello, everybody. Today I have with us Christopher Brandlin, and this is out of my wheelhouse because Christopher is actually a lawyer. Hi, Christopher. Welcome.
Welcome.
So the reason that Chris and I actually crossed paths are because of a lot of things that were in common with our journeys. And so Chris, I would like for you to go ahead and explain to people what the absolute pit, I wouldn't even say the pit. It was like you were in the pit of mental illness hell and you dug a hole.
Yes.
So
So,
tell me what that was like for you.
like, what happened first, the chicken or the egg, right? But I would say that it was a horrible experience with the medical industry, including back-to-back colon surgeries, which were failed. And basically, when I say failed, they caused numerous infections, and they cut me open 6 ways from Sunday. Basically, they removed a part of my intestine, about, I think it was like 6 to 9 inches, but they did it so sloppy, and they had to recut me open 2 times afterwards. And when actually they had to recut me open, even though I was already in pain from all the infections and I was having this swelling from all the from the incision area, they actually had to recut me open without any anesthesia. So I was wide awake when I saw them cut me open. And but this was after a couple of years of like dangerous pharmaceuticals that the doctors just fed me, and they didn't never even wanted to treat the true cause. And because of that, I finally just told the doctor, get away from me. I don't want to go back to the hospital. I don't trust you. You know what? I used to be a personal trainer. I got to go back to some of like my like some natural, like, healing mechanisms. All right. And I don't believe the doctors are the answer. And then that's when I started researching some kind of like, alternative medicine or functional medicine, whatever you want to call it. And I discovered the Paleomedicina clinic with Dr. Sophia Clemens, who I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's actually when I started making recovery. But after those surgeries, I was in like the worst depression possible, because I used to be a very competitive athlete. I used to be a former natural bodybuilder. I was Mr. Los Angeles in 2010. Even during law school, I was a triathlete. I was working out every morning. I felt great. I felt so confident going on the beach. I was like, you know what? I can do anything I want. And then after
And
getting cut open, go ahead, sorry.
so did you have any depression before?
I would say the depression didn't start until I started getting all this pharmaceutical medications, and because they started giving me a lot of opiate medication too, and that
Yeah.
really messed with my head. And then after the surgeries, that's when the real depression kicked. And I, as you probably already know, when you saw my other kind of like a podcast with Paula from like a couple of years ago, I attempted suicide twice. And
Yeah.
and one was with trying to overdose myself with like with opioids, because I wanted to end it. I was in so much pain and depression. I lost all my confidence, and I just wanted to end it. And I just remember that I couldn't even finish the job when I was trying to attempt suicide. And then I thought back and I stopped. I was like, what the hell am I doing to myself? And then I also thought, I was like, you know what? I still have a lot of people in my life that actually care for me. I got to think of what it's going to do to them. And I've had a friend
Yeah.
commit suicide in the past, and actually it was actually, I went to high school and college with them, and actually it was right when I finished college he committed suicide. But I just remember I'm still close with his mother, because I'd known her for a long time, and she's still emotionally and mentally scarred from it, because she actually had to find her dead son.
Ugh.
So I put that in my head, and I was like, you know what? I need to find some light at the end of the tunnel. So that's where I said, like, you know what? I don't care how much pain in him. I'm gonna find some type of sense of recovery. I'm gonna find some kind of healing tool. And that's where I started researching out there. But the probably the smartest thing I did was I just gave my middle finger to the hospital and the doctor, where he's like, you need to come back to the emergency room. But look at We have a lot of different other options. We can redo the surgery. We can give you some more medication. I'm like, are you just trying to kill me? I'm like, you know what? I just told him, go yourself, because I don't trust you. I was like, I think you made me worse. And it's completely accurate. And that's where I started doing some medical malpractice afterwards.
Did it take you a while to have that grit and that strength to be able to stand up against the medical model? To say,
Yeah, I
no,
know.
I'm going to take the reins of
It
my
is, and
health.
I'm not going to say that like my family members are like the nemesis in this situation, because they're the ones who are saying like, you know what, I know you got your own little health background in the fitness industry and you think you can heal yourself, but you need to listen to your doctors. They know best for you. And unfortunately, I have judges and other attorneys with a lot of like credentials and like, look, we know best. We got the best reputation in California as the Brandlins. And you know what? You got to take our advice. You need to listen to our doctors. We know best for you. And I actually had to turn that all off. I was like, you know what? I think I know what's best for myself because I'm the one experiencing the pain. Yeah, but you got to also realize that sometimes when you're so depressed and you're in so much pain, you're very easily manipulated. And that's why I think the doctors took advantage of it.
Yeah. And I would just think, you're sitting there going, okay, these are my trusted family. And then you've probably been in a family that trusted doctors. And so this is just what we do. And so you had to be in a really, really dark place to go no to your family and no to the medical model. And then you were on your own.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember I owned several properties, and I remember I just moved out of one property and got it rented out just so I could stay with my family during the surgeries, because I was just so weak at that point. I was like, I'm not even sure if I could just take care of myself. Like, my God, like what the hell? I'm like in my mid-30s and I've been doing this all my life. And basically I was traveling to like the United States and the world, and I'm running my own law. And so I was very kind of depressed. If I was like, oh my God, I had to move back in with my family. That was like another depressing thing.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, and they were against me. And when I told them, I was like, hey, I'm saying no to you, and I'm flying out of Europe. I think I found some options here. Oh, you are stupid for doing that. What is wrong with you? And you know what? It was the best decision of my life.
You won, dude. Like, talk about like winning a case. Like this, you won the case of a lifetime.
Oh,
Your own
exactly.
health.
And actually is I'm doing so well in the last couple of years. I opened my solo firm, I got additional credentials. I got published multiple times. I'm like, I think the proof's in the pudding. I
Yeah.
think I was right. So I'm not requesting a amnesty or apology, but I think you're gonna have to admit I was right and you were wrong. I think they're so egotistic that they'll never admit that, though. It's fine.
Well, because dude, you came back from the dead.
Yeah.
Like you came back from the dead. When I heard your interview, when you were saying that you could put your finger in the hole and of your
Oh,
sore.
that was the ulcer. That's another problem I developed after the surgery, is when I developed this like life-threatening ulcerating skin disease afterwards. So that surgery basically provoked this inflammatory disease, because when you're in so much inflammation, you can always develop additional inflammatory diseases afterwards. And mine was pyoderma gangrenosum, where you develop ulcerations all over your body, and it's almost like leprosy. They start
Yeah.
eating up your skin. And I still remember I was able to touch my hip bone with my finger, and it was disgusting. I was bleeding and pussing. I was like, oh my God, how deep is this? And I was like, that's my hip bone. Oh my God. And yeah, that's how bad it was.
Yeah. Like literally, like I picture the Bible times of,
Oh,
like
it's pretty deep.
people who are like on the side of the road where, can't walk and they've got leprosy and they've got all this stuff going on and no hope. Like you were in this place of just no hope because the people who were supposed to come in and rescue you, and I'm sure you had, plenty of funds from your judges and lawyers family, So you had all the best doctors that money could buy, and you were still sick,
Oh yeah,
and getting no
and
answers.
supposedly I had one of the top surgeons in California, so that doesn't say much.
No, not at
Yeah.
all. Not at all. So, I'm sorry, go ahead. What were some of the things that you found that brought and literally turned this ship around?
Oh, so first of all, I think the main thing was kind of switching over to the carnivore diet. And I would say that, I always had a healthy diet, even like
Yeah, what did you eat before?
I want to say like healthy, but I would say not like the typical sad diet, right? So during bodybuilding, I was just doing like just certain meals a day, but it was basically just, fish and chicken or and vegetables with some kind of fats and stuff like that. And then every 3 days, I would basically recycle or carb load on sweet potatoes. And like, actually, I was doing that religiously. And then sometimes I would just do sweet potatoes before and after a workout. And then I think I would have probably the least harmful kind of grains. I would say it was a white rice or something like that. But I never did any sugar or anything else like that. So afterwards, I was like, man, even plants are just. That's why I realized when I was looking in the carnivore diet, I started doing eliminations. I was like, all right, let me just eat meat by itself. Let me see what happens. Okay, I don't feel anything. This is good. All right, but let me try to add some vegetables. I'm like, oh God, you know what? This is killing my stomach. It was still kind of sensitive. And I think even coconut oil was like causing like some burning at that. I was like, holy shit, even coconut oil is causing problems. Yeah, and then I was like, you know what? I think the carnivore diet's making sense, but you know what? I want to meet with the experts in the Paleomedicina clinic. So I Skyped with Dr. Sophia, and she's like, you know what? We'd be happy to have you over here for a week. And I blocked off a week. I basically, I was still working during all this time, but I was just working less. I just had to like continue a lot of hearings and all that. And yeah, the best thing is when I got over there, it wasn't at their main clinic in Budapest. It was actually in it was a little different part of Hungary. It's called Kudakinskini or something like a thermal hotel, but they kind of blocked it all off for their patients and their clinics, and you got your own hotel room. But twice a day they would serve you like the fattiest and like the most delicious meals. But they actually the I guess the chef was doing all the cooking. Like he was getting all of his food from like a local farm right there. And if you ever had pork, because I was never tolerating pork here in the US, but if you ever had pork in Budapest, it's like pure gold. And I remember like I had like a fat addiction at that point where I just wanted so much pork fat. It'd serve you like all these pork bellies, like the big thick one, not bacon, and like pork fat slabs, the back slabs, and just like dressing. And I was like, oh my God, I was like licking the plate because it was feeling so good on my stomach. Yeah, and then afterwards, I was like, you know what? I had a little diarrhea because I knew I had too much fat, but it didn't burn. It actually felt
Yeah.
it actually felt comfortable. And
Yeah,
that's what I
it's
was
like
like,
a
oh my God,
different
so this,
diarrhea.
yeah, I mean, comfortable diarrhea is almost like an oxymoron, right?
I know. I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about now.
so that's where I was like, all right. And so I did very well, but I still had this ulcerating skin disease, even though it kind of the inflammation reduced, it still had like a very infectious part of this disease that was still lingering. I just remember I was functioning so much better afterwards. I came back to the US. I was going back. I was able to move back into like, a new condo, and I started, investing in properties again. And I was starting to work with cases. I was getting a lot more active. And I was like, I still got this ulcerating skin disease. And I finally saw like a local dermatologist, but actually I like it because he's one of those few doctors that actually thinks outside the box, right? I'm not gonna like blanket and stereotype all doctors are bad because a couple of them do think outside the
Yeah.
box. And he actually studied medicine in Europe, and that's why he's like, hey, look at I don't like a lot of American medicine either, okay? And he finally admitted that, and he actually is like, look, there's only one thing that could possibly cure you, and insurance is probably not going to prove it for your condition, even though they should. It's hyperbaric oxygen therapy.
Wow.
And And I'm not sure, as I know that I already mentioned that to you first, but have you ever kind of studied that or
I
investigated that?
haven't. No, this is I like I've heard the word, but like this in your interview with Paula, which I will put in the show notes.
Sure.
Your interview with Paula was the first time I really understood or heard more about that.
Yeah,
And it's
and
just
I think it's a
amazing.
good adjunct because it's minimally invasive. You're not getting needles, you're not eating anything. You're just getting oxygen, but you're just getting a shitload of oxygen, high amounts. But you got to use a medical grade chamber. So when you Google hyperbaric oxygen therapy, you're probably going to get a bunch of like these cryotherapy and chiropractic clinics that have these little inflatable chambers, right? But they don't do anything for you. They go to, they're very soft, they're very weak, and you don't get that much oxygen. You're not going to actually have any type of regeneration from that. The only thing those have been proven effective for is like high altitude sickness. So anybody that tries to sell you an inflatable chamber, they're just a salesperson trying to get money out of you. So you have to find these certain clinics or certain kind of like treatments that sell these medical grade chambers. And I'm not sure if you remember, but Michael Jackson, to keep the skin on his body after this freak accident, where that's why he all looked very weird before his death. And this is like, besides his propofol he got overdosed with, but he was actually keeping his inflammation down with hyperbaric oxygen. He was sleeping in a medical grade chamber. Well, not sleeping, but like, sleeping during the day for like about 1 to 2 hours a day. And sometimes he would do it every day, or he would do it a couple times a week, and a lot of athletes use it. But basically, it speeds up the healing process in your body, and it's proven to basically have antimicrobial activities if you have some numerous infections. So these ulcers on my body, I did go to some doctors that say, "Oh, we're just going to give you some ointments and all that," and it just made it worse. And they're giving like Neosporin, which has like it's basically mineral oil, petroleum jelly, and it's just crap that's just going to feed the infections. It was making it worse. I remember I was taping myself up like a mummy, but when I actually found a local clinic, it had a medical grade. It went to like what 2.5 ATA, which is atmospheric units. And basically, it's amount of pressure of oxygen that's infused into the chamber. Anything above 2.0 is usually promoting type of angiogenesis, where it creates red blood cells. It actually regenerates tissue in your body, including your gut.
Wow.
So, and they have a lot of clinical studies which proven that it actually was curing a lot of different types of ulcerative colitis.
So wait. So on the outside of my skin, I can treat my gut.
Yes, exactly. Because if you're oxygen deprived, yeah, because your body's not healing itself properly. But I'll tell you that if you just eat a bunch of shit and you go back to a lot of plant-based burgers or something like that, or something that Bill Gates is trying to feed you with his soy boobs, then yeah, you're going to basically be contraindicating the process, because you're just going to be inflaming your body right afterwards. So that's where I learned the carnivore diet in conjunction with the hyperbaric oxygen. I healed my gut instantaneously, but I also healed all these ulcers over my body. And that's why I thought, sometimes certain patients, as you probably work with many, they need to have certain things in adjunct with this carnivore diet. Get some more sunlight, all right? Do some grounding. You got so many different kind of factors that you need to put in your lifestyle. But I think this is like a treatment protocol that's minimally invasive. There's like very little consequences or anything that you may get may get a little claustrophobia or something like that. I don't know. But if you do it for 1 or 2 hours a couple times a week, it can really improve the healing process. A lot of carnivores don't need it because they didn't have my type of disease where they didn't need like some medical grade oxygen into their body a couple times a week. I just think like a pure carnivore diet can promote so much healing on their body by itself. But my condition needed this additional kind of protocol.
Wow, that is so interesting. And so if people are looking for this, they would just Google?
Well, I mean, yeah, it depends on the area, and I think there is like a national website. It's like I think there's like some kind of like search kind of, it's not a search engine, but it's some kind of like database where they'll give you a lot of hyperbaric oxygen centers in your area if you put your zip code. I don't have that offhand, but if you want to give my contact to a lot of these viewers at the end, I'd be happy to share the information for them. If they have certain conditions, the insurance could actually approve it, like diabetic ulcers. I didn't have diabetic ulcers. I had some very rare ulcerating skin disease that the insurance company's like, oh, we're not familiar with it enough. We don't study it. So we're a health insurance company and we'd like to just take your money and not really help you. So we're not going to approve it. I said, you know what? I don't need your freaking approval. I'm going to pay out of pocket for this because I care about my health. All right. And I'm not going to be paying your health insurance to your crooked surgeons who caused this problem in the first place. So yeah, there's a database which gives you a lot of different centers based on your zip code if you need this type of hyperbaric oxygen.
I love that. So what did you, whenever I know, I understand what you ate when you went to Paleomedicina, but afterwards when you came home from there, what have you been eating over and has it changed? Like, did you change what you were eating
No, actually, I
2 years ago and now?
You know, it always varies based on like, like preferences and how I feel. Like when I'm very cold in the winter, like at raw meat, sometimes I need to have some cooked meat. I need something to just kind of warm me up. All right. So I actually was like on a raw meat kick where.
Really? No way.
Well, no, I still do it occasionally. And you know what? It's kind of funny. You go with all these dinner with a bunch of other attorneys who have a stick up their ass and they think they know everything. And I was like, you know what? And they're like, oh, how would you like? And we're going to like a business lunch, right? And they're like, oh, how would you like your meal? I was like, look, I only want the steak. I don't want anything else. And like, oh, it automatically comes with a side of potatoes and some green beans. I'm like, well, you can give it to the rats on the side, or you can give it to another table, right? And not just that. I was like, oh, look, I want a filet mignon, but I don't want to even. If you have to cook it as part of your policy, then I want the slightest sear on the edge. I want to look like I am eating that steak like it just got cut off the animal, okay? And everybody's looking at me like, what is wrong with this guy? And I was like, no, I just beat your ass in court. I'm going to eat this right in front of me, okay? So I can kind of tell them that. So yeah, actually, I think filet mignons are easy because if you don't have a grinder in front of you, because it's not as gristly as other meats. But I actually got my home, I actually have a meat grinder at home where I would just get like the freshest, grass-fed or at least pasture-raised kind of like steaks, either a ribeye, because I think like the raw fat and meat mixture is perfect. If you actually just cut up in small pieces, put it through the meat grinder, and you eat it, and you know what? Especially with my intestine that actually was cut open, and I still have the scar tissue still pinches a piece of my intestine close to the normal. I never get any kind of basically blockages because meat is so soothing and it doesn't cause any blockage. It's not like this fibrous material that's just going to get clogged up in there. But I would tell you that if you actually get like some really quality fresh meat, you cut it up and you grind it up yourself, some of the most soothing thing on your stomach. And just like, let's say like if I had a bad habit one day, I was like, oh God, you know what? I didn't get much sleep. I got to have some coffee. I know it's going to wreck my gut, but I got to wake up and I got to finish this. I got to finish this brief. And I was like, you know what? My gut is killing me. And I was like, that was stupid. But then right afterwards, I was like, at night, I was like, and sometimes I'll do the one meal a day. I was like, I'm just going to get this nice, fresh ribeye. I'm going to grind it up myself. And basically all my problems or pain went away instantaneously.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Yeah, I gravitated towards raw too. And it's because whenever I digest it, it just feels so much better.
Oh yeah. I know I still can't overcook a steak. It actually makes me sick.
Oh yeah.
It just feels like it actually, what I found out it makes my body actually create too much bile acid. Over bile. A lot of people don't create enough, right? And they have to take ox bile and all this other stuff. You can actually have bile acid diarrhea, BAD, or bile acid malabsorption, BAM, and you can actually create too much bile acid, which actually can be too acidic for your intestine.
Wow. I had no idea.
And actually, I found out with, I don't know, I studied everything. I'm actually a weirdo. I keep getting credentials on the weekends. I do medical malpractice on the side, so I'm studying medical records and I'm studying medicine on the weekends, and I'm getting my PhD right now. So I'm studying clinical trials and publications on the weekends. So I'm just a weird studyholic. So that's why I'm really glad I like to look into further research, and I found out that all these doctors are full of it. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why I overcook steaks. I don't think it's going to be damaging on a lot of people, but for me specifically, it just doesn't suit well. So that's why, if anything, a quick sear, or actually the safest, and actually Dr. Sophia actually kind of promotes, is a very slow bake at a slow roast at a low temperature.
Mm.
And melts in your mouth. Yeah, and it's not too gristly and chewy like a what was it? A Christmas Vacation with Chevy Chase, where he overcooks the turkey or something like that, and everybody's kind of like chewing it like, I can't really chew it, and they can't eat it. Yeah, that's what happens when you overcook a steak.
Absolutely. And what I love about it is that I go to my farmer and he's like, what cut do you want? And I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah,
everything tastes delicious raw.
yeah, I know, and that's why sometimes if you buy the whole, get a meat freezer and just buy the whole animal, cut
I
up
did.
yourself.
I did.
Yeah.
I got a half a cow about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different farms and options, like Frankie's Free Range. I mean, I was doing grassland beef for a while. The only thing is, I still, one of the reasons that provoked me to go to the hospital and when they fed me all the medications was I developed Lyme disease, and that's where I just started getting sick. But you know what? I think if I just look at my roots and probably just kind of like, treat it with some kind of natural healing, I wouldn't have these problems. But instead, I listened to the doctors and they made me sick with all the pharmaceuticals. But I would say that, there's a lot of different options on getting some quality meats that I found out. And there's a couple farms here in California, even though California is not known to be the farms. I mean, people look at what is it? A North Star Bison, Wild Oak Pastures, and there's a couple others, and you probably have a bigger list than I do.
Well, I would like to know because I actually have a couple of clients that are in LA area.
Okay.
And I would love to know what a good local farm there.
Well, I actually look at one thing I should always tell you is that I learned that, people are like, well, chickens, poultry it's carnivore, but you got to stick in. If you ever met with a Paleomedicina clinic or Dr. Sophia, they prefer for you to stick with four-legged animals. They don't like poultry, right? Because you got more nutrient dense and you have a kind of a better omega-3 to 6 ratio with actually four-legged animals, because if you ever get poultry, especially if it's a conventional chicken, man, the omega-6s are through the roof. You're just basically eating pure inflammation. But one of the reasons why it's very inflammatory, not only is because it's probably fed with hormones and all this other stuff, it's what they feed it. And two bad things that they feed it with is basically corn and soy. Okay. Yep. So there's only a few farms in the United States that actually have corn-free and soy-free chicken and pork, because pork is fed a lot of corn and soy as well. And that's why a lot of carnivores do not respond well to pork. So there's actually, yeah, exactly. And actually that's why it was weird, because I remember when I was trying out the carnivore, I was trying some pork, I was like, oh man, that just made me sick. You know what? I'm going to stick with the steak and screw that pork. But in Hungary, it's what they feed the pork, and they never feed the pork soy or corn. And so they feed them some alternatives like acorns and some squash or something like that. But you know what? Anything's better than a stupid freaking corn and soy. There is actually some local farms in California. One of them is called, I think, Family Friendly Farms in California. And they have a humongous selection of corn-free and soy-free pork and poultry. But the pork bellies and the pork tenderloins are so fresh and delicious. And you know what? You can taste the difference. Not only can you taste the difference, you can feel the difference.
Oh,
Yeah.
yay. I can't wait to tell my clients. That's so
Yeah, and
awesome.
Frankie's free range meats. I think they have Frank Tufano. I know he's kind of like on and off. Like he's not hardcore carnivore because he started doing all this carbs and all this other stuff. But honey, and he's selling granola or something. But anyways, but he's actually got a good range, good options, for corn free and soy free pork and poultry. And actually, yeah, he's got the Iberico pork, which is really good pork. So Frankie's free range meats is a really good option for getting corn free and soy free pork.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you can buy in bulk, and actually, if I think you pay like $100, you get free shipping and all that stuff like that. So everyone's like, $100 for meat. So it's like, look, you're buying for like 1 or 2 weeks, just store it in the freezer, and don't go to a grocery store for a while. You don't need to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much money you save.
I know, actually, that's why I'm doing so well financially. I'm making a lot of money because I work my ass off and I got a good reputation right now. And I got all these investments, and I don't spend that much money because I don't need to spend all this crap in food. I don't need to spend an hour walking up every aisle of groceries looking up crap. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get some basic meat and walk out. Yeah, so everybody that says like, oh, eating meat only sounds very expensive. They're so full of crap. And usually they're the same type of like really activist vegans who are spending hundreds of dollars on all these plant-based crap and they're like at the whole vegetable section. I got to get all this organic kale and all this. And usually they're the same people who are wearing a mask while driving by themselves. Just shows you the overall logic, right?
Exactly. And I'm sure you're inundated with that in LA.
Oh no, and I'm exactly, and a lot of people like, hey, Chris, you're pushing the envelope. Even the California State Bar, because I speak out against the vaccine mandates and I speak out against the mask. I'm like, hey, I cured myself with the oxygen. If you're gonna try to suffocate me with a stupid, ridiculous mask, I'm gonna speak out. So I was speaking out publicly, and I was posting everything basically with the LA County Bar. And one of them was like, I think wearing this mask excessively, I think you're making yourself dumber. I think you're basically hypercapping it. You're cutting off oxygen to your body, and we need oxygen to our brain. I think you're getting a little dumber. I think that's why you're still buying this plant-based meat. And they think like Bill Gates is going to save them. I can go on forever, but that's going to go on too many tangents.
I got you. Well, honestly, I'm so thankful for your story. I am so thankful for your healing, and that you, I mean, you were probably already empowered with everything all your accomplishments before this tragedy. But now that you've gone through the pit and you've come out the other side, you are like Superman. Like you are like invincible. Like nothing can take you down.
But I've had too high expectations of myself, and actually that's one thing. Like I have to agree with my family. They're like, I don't think you're ever gonna love yourself because you always are unimpressed with yourself, Chris. I'm like, yeah, it's just a mental disorder, but it's fine. It makes me do better. I think the only thing I would probably try to promote from this story is I want to, first of all, tell a lot of others that there's always light at the end of the tunnel, especially when you're depressed. There's always a huge support group. And I found everybody in the carnivore is like the best support group. And I can tell you, I have friends from so many different industries, and nothing like this carnivore group where there's providing any support where I need it. But also is that I always want them to take kind of precautions when they get sick, when they go to these medical doctors, because they can do a lot more damage than good. And if you actually ask for yourself, when was the last time a doctor would tell a patient that their goal is for them to never have to see a doctor ever again? And they'll never tell them that, look, my goal is for you to take no medications at the end of the week. Instead, the doctors do the opposite. I want you to see me next week. I want you to take some additional medications. What pills you're taking? Okay, we're going to take this 3 times a day instead of 2 times a day. And they just keep feeding them more. And that just shows you that conventional medicine does not have the best intentions. And my goal is I never want anybody to go through what I had to go through.
Absolutely. Because I mean, it's a miracle that you survived and that you didn't fulfill your suicide. And so honestly, we can't take that risk for other people, that when they get to the pit of that hell and then they dig a hole, that they're going to be able to crawl out. So I'm so thankful for your story. And how can people find you? You said just Google Christopher Brandlin.
Yeah, I never thought I would kind of say that. I'm always ashamed because I always call like the people that Google themselves a douche. But yeah, so look, and then if you go to my main website, brandlinlaw.com, you can find me there, and then it's got links to my office, like my office number. Whenever I step out, I can get routed to my mobile, and not just that, and all the voicemails are saved, and then you can email me there too. And if that gives you my work email, but you know what? If I ever see that someone's confronting me with a personal matter that's not so work related, then I'll say, look at here, I'll refer you to my personal email, and I can converse with you that. And look, I try to do a lot of, I'm going to call it pro bono, as you call an attorney, like free legal service, but I always try to want to help others out because like I said, I never want anybody else to go through what I had to go through.
That means so much to me. So your email is chris@brandlinlaw.com.
Yeah.
.com. Yes. So thank you so much for your time. And I hope that people hear your story and know that there is hope, even if you are feeling at your absolute worst. So thank you, not only for surviving, but for, like, you could have just gotten this healing and then just went away with your healing, but you're sharing it.
Sure.
And I really, it means so much to me.
Yeah, I'd prefer for others to help out. And I actually wanted to personally thank you, Emily, because when I saw your videos and your story and your journey and how well you're doing, I was like, you know what, you're promoting the good word. And I think a lot of others need to do the same.
Aw, thank you so much. That means everything to me. That's why I keep doing these interviews and I keep talking about this.
And you have good intentions, so perfect.
Thank you. All right, well, have a good day and thank you so much. And I would love to meet with you again sometime in a couple of years or a year, just to hear your progress.
Sure. Contact me anytime, okay?
All right, thanks. Bye.